Imagine trying to sleep on a summer night when the temperature never drops below 100 degrees Fahrenheit. There are no fans, no air conditioners, no electricity. The walls of your home radiate heat long after sunset, and even the slightest breeze feels like a miracle. For thousands of years, this was everyday life for millions of people. Entire civilizations were shaped by one relentless force: heat. Yet humanity refused to accept it. Long before the first air conditioner was invented, people were already fighting an invisible battle against the climate. That battle would eventually produce one of the most important inventions in modern history. An invention that transformed where we live, how we work, and even which cities could exist. Our story begins more than 5,000 years ago, along the banks of the Nile River in ancient Egypt. The Egyptian sun was unforgiving. During the hottest months, temperatures could make ordinary work almost impossible. Without modern technology, survival depended on creativity. Wealthy families built homes with thick mud brick walls that absorbed heat during the day and released it slowly at night, helping interiors remain cooler than the outside air. The Egyptians also discovered that water could be used to cool the air. Wet reeds and damp cloths were hung over windows and doorways. As hot desert winds passed through the moist material, some of the heat was carried away through evaporation. The air entering the room became noticeably cooler. It was simple, but it worked. Thousands of years later, the same scientific principle would become one of the foundations of modern cooling technology. Across the ancient world, other civilizations searched for their own solutions. In Mesopotamia, builders designed houses around shaded courtyards where fountains and pools reduced surrounding temperatures. Narrow streets created permanent shadows, protecting people from direct sunlight. Architecture itself became a tool for controlling climate. But perhaps the greatest ancient innovation came from Persia. In the vast deserts of what is now Iran, engineers developed remarkable structures known today as windcatchers. Rising high above rooftops, these towers captured even the slightest breeze. Inside, carefully designed shafts directed cooler air downward into homes while forcing hot air upward and out. Some windcatchers worked together with underground water channels called qanats. As air flowed across cool water beneath the ground, temperatures dropped even further before entering the building. These systems required no electricity, no motors, and no fuel. They relied entirely on physics, engineering, and an extraordinary understanding of local climate. Even today, many historians consider Persian windcatchers among the greatest examples of sustainable architecture ever created. Meanwhile, farther west, the Roman Empire was experimenting with comfort on an entirely different scale. Rome had mastered the movement of water through enormous aqueducts that stretched for hundreds of miles. While these engineering marvels are famous for supplying drinking water, they also allowed wealthy Romans to cool parts of their villas by circulating fresh water through walls, gardens, and decorative fountains. Flowing water lowered surrounding temperatures while creating shaded spaces where citizens could escape the summer heat. Roman public baths offered another form of climate control. Although celebrated for their heated rooms, many bath complexes also included cool chambers where visitors recovered from intense heat. Massive stone buildings, high ceilings, and controlled airflow demonstrated that architecture could influence human comfort long before modern engineering existed. Across Asia, Chinese inventors pursued their own ideas. During the Han Dynasty, mechanical devices powered by hand or water were developed to circulate air through royal palaces. Centuries later, larger rotary fans appeared in imperial courts, creating stronger airflow that improved comfort during the hottest seasons. While these machines could not reduce air temperature directly, they represented another important step toward controlling indoor environments. Despite these remarkable achievements, every ancient solution shared one limitation. They depended entirely on local geography, clever architecture, or favorable weather. When temperatures became truly extreme, there was only so much they could do. Humanity had learned how to cooperate with nature, but not yet how to control it. That breakthrough would take thousands of years, waiting for a new age of science, steam power, factories, and industrial invention. Ironically, the machine that finally conquered the heat was never designed to keep people comfortable. It was created to solve a completely different problem. For thousands of years, people had learned to work around the heat. But by the 18th and 19th centuries, a new problem emerged. The Industrial Revolution transformed quiet towns into crowded manufacturing centers. Massive brick factories filled with steam-powered machines operated day and night, producing paper, textiles, books, and countless other goods. Inside these buildings, temperatures soared. Windows stayed closed to protect products from dust, while hundreds of workers and heavy machinery generated enormous amounts of heat and moisture. At first, factory owners believed the heat itself was the biggest enemy. In reality, an invisible force was causing even greater damage: humidity. Humidity affects far more than human comfort. It causes paper to expand and contract, fabric fibers to stretch unpredictably, and ink to dry unevenly. A printing press could produce thousands of flawless pages one day and completely unusable copies the next, simply because the moisture in the air had changed overnight. Textile mills faced similar disasters. Cotton threads snapped unexpectedly, machines jammed, and expensive materials were wasted. As industries grew larger, controlling the indoor environment became an economic necessity rather than a luxury. Scientists had already begun unlocking the mysteries of heat. During the 18th century, researchers such as Content, Reference Oasite Charta Index Owadro studied latent heat, explaining how energy could be absorbed or released during changes of state. Later, inventors experimented with artificial refrigeration by compressing and expanding gases. These early machines were designed to make ice or preserve food, but they introduced a revolutionary idea. Heat itself could be moved from one place to another. By the late 19th century, refrigeration technology was advancing rapidly. Breweries, meatpacking companies, and cold storage warehouses were beginning to rely on mechanical cooling. Yet no one had successfully created a system capable of controlling both temperature and humidity inside large buildings. That challenge arrived unexpectedly in the summer of 1902. In Brooklyn, New York, the Sackett-Wilhelms Lithographing and Publishing Company faced an expensive crisis. Every summer, warm, humid air caused paper sheets to swell before printing. Different colors no longer aligned correctly on the page, ruining thousands of high-quality magazines and advertisements. The company wasn't asking for cooler offices, it simply wanted consistent printing. To solve the problem, a young engineer named Willis Carrier was hired. Carrier had recently graduated in engineering and worked for the Buffalo Forge Company. Rather than treating humidity as an uncontrollable force of nature, he approached it as a mathematical engineering problem. One foggy night, while waiting for a train, he watched mist drift through the station and realized that by carefully controlling moisture in the air, he could also regulate temperature. That insight changed history. Carrier designed a machine that forced air through coils filled with cold water. As warm, moisture-filled air touched the chilled coils, water vapor condensed into liquid and drained away. The remaining air became both drier and cooler before circulating back into the building. For the first time, temperature and humidity could be controlled together with remarkable precision. The system was installed in 1902. The printing problems disappeared almost immediately. Colors aligned perfectly. Paper dimensions remained stable. Production became predictable regardless of the weather outside. Carrier had not simply invented a cooling machine, he had created the world's first practical modern air conditioning system. Interestingly, comfort was still a secondary benefit. Businesses adopted the technology because it protected products and improved manufacturing efficiency. Textile mills quickly realized that stable humidity reduced thread breakage. Tobacco factories preserved delicate leaves more effectively. Pharmaceutical companies gained cleaner production environments. Chocolate manufacturers prevented products from melting during processing. Industries across America discovered that controlling air meant controlling quality. As demand grew, Carrier continued refining his designs. In 1911, he published the rational psychrometric formulae, a breakthrough that allowed engineers to calculate the precise relationship between temperature, humidity, and airflow. What had once depended on trial and error became an exact science. Heating, ventilation, and air conditioning could now be designed with mathematical precision. Soon, factories were no longer the only customers. Architects, hospitals, libraries, and government buildings began exploring the possibilities of climate-controlled interiors. Yet the biggest transformation was still ahead. The invention that had started as a solution for a printing company was about to leave the factory floor and enter everyday life. It would reshape entertainment, architecture, public health, and even the geography of entire nations in ways Willis Carrier himself could never have imagined. When air conditioning left the factory floor, it didn't arrive in people's homes first. It arrived somewhere far more public: the movie theater. During the 1920s, summers presented a serious problem for theater owners across the United States. As temperatures climbed, audiences stayed home. Crowded auditoriums became unbearably hot, and ticket sales dropped every year. Installing air conditioning changed everything almost overnight. People didn't just come to watch a film, they came to escape the heat. Families gathered inside cool theaters during sweltering afternoons, turning movie-going into a summer tradition. Some historians even credit air conditioning with helping Hollywood grow into the entertainment giant it is today. A technology designed to improve printing had unexpectedly transformed an entire industry. Soon, department stores, hotels, restaurants, banks, and office buildings realized they could attract more customers simply by offering a comfortable indoor climate. Walking into an air-conditioned building became a luxury experience. Store owners noticed shoppers stayed longer. Restaurants served more guests during summer. Office workers remained productive throughout the hottest months. By the middle of the 20th century, manufacturers had begun producing smaller systems for houses and apartments. Air conditioning slowly shifted from a commercial technology to a household appliance. While early residential units were expensive and available mainly to wealthy families, mass production gradually reduced costs, making them accessible to millions. This change quietly transformed everyday life. Before air conditioning, many regions of the world experienced a slower rhythm during summer. Businesses reduced hours, afternoon work became difficult, and sleep was often interrupted by relentless heat. Suddenly, homes remained cool enough to cook, study, work, and rest, regardless of the weather outside. Architecture evolved as well. For centuries, buildings had been designed to fight the climate naturally. Thick stone walls, shaded courtyards, tall ceilings, verandas, and carefully placed windows encouraged airflow while blocking direct sunlight. These features were essential because buildings had no mechanical cooling. Air conditioning changed those priorities. Architects could now design sealed skyscrapers covered almost entirely in glass. Windows no longer needed to open. Buildings grew taller, denser, and more dependent on mechanical systems. Entire skylines, from New York to Hong Kong, Singapore, and Dubai, became possible because engineers could control indoor temperatures, regardless of the climate outside. Perhaps nowhere was this transformation more dramatic than in the world's hottest regions. Cities such as Phoenix, Las Vegas, Riyadh, Abu Dhabi, and Dubai experienced extraordinary population growth during the 20th century. While many factors contributed to their success, reliable air conditioning played a crucial role. Modern offices, hospitals, airports, shopping centers, and apartment towers could now operate comfortably even when outdoor temperatures exceeded 110 degrees Fahrenheit or 43 degrees Celsius. The invention didn't just reshape cities, it reshaped economies. Factories producing electronics required carefully controlled environments where tiny components could be assembled without excessive heat or moisture. Hospitals relied on filtered, temperature-controlled air to reduce infection risks and protect vulnerable patients. Data centers, filled with powerful computers running around the clock, became entirely dependent on sophisticated cooling systems. Without air conditioning, much of today's digital infrastructure simply could not function. Even scientific research benefited. Laboratories could perform delicate experiments with stable environmental conditions. Museums and archives preserved priceless paintings, manuscripts, and ancient artifacts by maintaining carefully controlled temperature and humidity levels, slowing deterioration that would otherwise occur naturally over time. Yet every technological revolution comes with new challenges. Today, air conditioning accounts for a significant share of global electricity consumption, especially during the hottest months of the year. As more countries develop and millions of people gain access to cooling for the first time, energy demand continues to rise. Engineers now face a new mission: designing cooling systems that are not only powerful, but also efficient and environmentally sustainable. Researchers are exploring advanced refrigerants with lower environmental impact, smarter climate control systems powered by artificial intelligence, solar-powered cooling technologies, and buildings that combine modern engineering with ancient architectural ideas such as natural ventilation, shaded courtyards, and even windcatchers first developed thousands of years ago in Persia. In many ways, history has come full circle. The future of cooling may depend not only on cutting-edge technology, but also on rediscovering the wisdom of ancient civilizations that learned to work with nature long before electricity existed. That is perhaps the greatest lesson in the history of air conditioning. It was never simply the story of one machine or one inventor. It is the story of humanity's endless determination to adapt, innovate, and survive. From wet reeds hanging in Egyptian windows to towering Persian windcatchers. From Roman aqueducts to steam-powered factories. From Willis Carrier's engineering breakthrough to the climate-controlled cities of today, every generation added another piece to a puzzle thousands of years in the making. Most people never notice the quiet hum of an air conditioner above their heads. Yet hidden inside that sound is a story stretching across 5 millennia, a story of science, architecture, industry, and human ingenuity. It is one of the rare inventions that changed not just how we live, but where we live, how we build, how we work, and ultimately how modern civilization itself became possible.